it started with creative fulfillment. It's like if you make your living doing creative work, it can so easily and so quickly become, there's a lot of money in being niche. There's a lot of money in being like, we make this one thing and we're going to churn it out forever. And there was a real temptation and a lot of advice to do that. And I knew from working in a church for 9 years, it's like, if I make the same thing for my career over and over and over again, while that will lead to financial success, it is going to kill me. Like I'll die on the vine of that because I'm not being responsive or responsible with kind of naturally how I feel like I should be spending my time.
There comes a pivotal, life-altering moment when you must make a choice. Will you choose the light or will you choose the darkness? You see, with darkness, it's simple. Torture for all of eternity. And the light brings eternal rest and peace and joy. Until we get to experience the wholeness of heaven, we endure some broken seasons and fragmented moments in this earthly life. The wise choice of the light informs us that with God, His powerful Spirit, and the cleansing blood of Jesus Christ, our mending is already done. So you ain't gotta be broke, and you may freely take your dominion as an image bearer. Welcome to You Ain't Gotta Be Broke. I'm Alesha, your host, and I'm here with Cedar Creative.
Yeah.
If I knew how to work that machine, I would totally do the clap because there is a clap thing. So I'm here with Kevin.
Yes.
Ethan.
Yep.
And Greyson.
Yes.
Although Greyson, every time I want to call you Preston. When I called you for your pre-interview, I wrote down Preston. And then you said, this is Greyson.
And You've had the wrong name since birth.
I think I could have been a Preston.
You got a Preston face.
Yeah. So anywho, we are here because these guys are partners in a production company, a very thriving production company, actually, from my eyes.
We hope.
And from your lips to that.
It looks like, okay, so the space is beautiful. Maybe, you know what? Maybe I'll get like some little behind the scenes shots around the building.
We cleaned it up for you. I went on and turned all the lights on. I lit some candles for you.
Oh,
yeah.
It does smell good.
Picked up some trash, yeah.
Did one of your wives buy these candles?
No, this is, so the people that rent half of our building, Hope Heals, are great friends of ours. We also shoot product photos for them and they sell candles. And then when we shoot a candle, we get to keep it. So we just have nice smelling stuff all the time.
Okay, so listen, Ethan. When I met you, it was at Shades Mountain.
Yeah.
Baptist Church, honey. And I don't remember how we met or whatever, but I just remember I told you this story of I was working on a film and I told you that I was working with people who call themselves witches. And the next thing I know, you're like, I thought about you and I wrote you in this script. And I'm like, why did you think about me? So why did you think about me, Ethan, from that conversation?
It had nothing to do with witches. I don't remember how we met either.
Maybe doing the announcements.
You were recommended. I don't know how we met, but there was you could tell we would do these announcement videos where you'd have to talk about like the events that were coming up at this church. And I was running the creative team there at the time. And you could meet people that just had like a presence. And like you could tell you put certain people in front of a camera and they're not going to be petrified. They're going to kind of know what to do. And it's really hard to read off a teleprompter anyway. And you had that vibe and asked you to come in. And then I like wouldn't leave you alone. I was like, every single week, will you stop what you're doing, leave your job and come in and just please be in these videos? Yeah. And then I was like, will you be in this movie that I need to make here?
Yeah. One thing, so I don't know if you know how I even ended up at that church. I had actually left another church for like a year or so. And I was just like, I can't do this. That particular church, not the church in general. And so then I came to Shades just because I knew I wouldn't know anybody. It was close to my house. And then I came and then I saw the production value I had never seen in a church. Like you all did. You weren't there.
I didn't work there.
You were sidetracking every once in a while.
I was around, but I was a student pastor at the time. So I was vaguely involved in some projects. I would mainly try to get Ethan to make stuff for the student ministry at the time.
But you were at Shades too?
Yeah, I was on staff there for about 4 years while I was in seminary.
Okay.
Yep.
I never besiege you.
And Greyson was in college at Stanford. And
how old are you, Greyson?
Him a similar way.
Now, currently?
Yeah.
29.
You just turned 29 on the 4th.
I did.
How did you know that?
Don't worry about it. I do my research. Your birthday is
like
the 18th
and a half. Yeah,
Holy cow,
that's right. How do you know this?
Good.
I don't think I know all my children's birthdays.
He didn't tell me yours. When is yours, Ethan?
The day after Kevin's, the 19th.
The night he did tell me yours. I lied. Yeah. I wrote it down.
May's a big month.
A couple weeks away. But Greyson was at Stanford, and then I saw a film that he did. Somebody sent it to me. Somebody else in the church sent it to me and was like, hey, there's a kid at Stanford that's making films you should check out. And then he randomly, I recognized him from his Vimeo avatar picture because I had followed him on Vimeo. And then he had come to an event that the church was having for college students. And I approached him. Pancake study break. And I approached him like a pickup artist or something. I was like, you don't know me, but I know you. And do you want to come work for me? And he was like, I'm a sophomore in college. Leave me alone. But then he started contracting. Like I would bring him on as a DP and stuff. So that's when y'all met. Yeah,
which was great. It's called Live Sent. You can find it on YouTube. It's really good, I think. And it looks great. Do you think it's good?
I think, there's parts of it that are good.
Do you be liking your work? Or
parts that you're in are good.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't need this buttering up, guys. I'm on a meal plan. I don't need no butter right now. Okay.
I do think it looks good.
It looks amazing.
On the cinematography end of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it looks good.
Okay. So tell me, what are each of your roles? You can start, Kevin.
Yeah. So I function as our producer, kind of handling all like the logistics of our projects and making sure everybody has got what they need and where they need to be. And then I also function like as our CEO and run our business side of things. How do we get the products made, but then also how do we like stay around as a business?
Yeah. So, amen. Yes.
Those are kind of my main responsibilities. At least that's how I see it.
That's accurate. That's pretty good. My responsibility is just write and direct and edit projects. Just make films.
Okay.
There's a little bit of client relationship within that naturally, but it's just make films.
Yeah. And it seems like you also have a gift of finding the right people for the right things, whether it's in a particular role in front of the camera or even with your partners. Now, I don't know how it came about because I know you and Kevin knew each other beforehand, but even still seeing whatever you saw in him.
I mean, I would say it's the same with you. Like that's how we became friends. But I think we're very relationally leading in our company. And that comes from,
yeah, that's true.
It's like life's too short to work with people that you don't get along with. And
so many horror stories too of the kind of work that we do. The turnover is very high.
Yeah.
People are generally unhappy. So it's kind of
our industry
it's a real
is
blessing
just full of that.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what about you? What's your role?
So I direct as well,
Okay.
but I would also say we took a working genius assessment. I don't know if you know what that is or not. It's basically like a personality test for your professional life. And one of the things that I discovered was that I'm what's called an enabler or a gap filler. I like to look at what is and then kind of support it, whatever. So I'd also say like I'm a director, kind of helping run the company, but the second tier of that would be just helping Ethan get things out the door. Okay. Not because he's not doing it, but just usually the vision's bigger than just him. It's like it requires the whole company to make the thing work. So I have a lot of fun helping bring projects to the finish line with different little tools that could help with this, or like, hey, I could take this task off your plate so you could focus on what actually matters, that kind of thing.
Which enables you to like think unreasonably outside your bounds, kind of, because you know there are people, you can write something, like I was saying about that film that we're working on. It's like you can write something that you don't know how to pull off because you know that Greyson will figure it out by the time you get there.
Right.
And so I don't have to know that everything is achievable because I know at some point Grayson's going to knock on the door and go, saw this thing in the script. I've done some research.
Yeah.
Here's how we're going to do it.
The important thing, though, that he's underselling is the value of having an idea to kind of corral the whole company around. You got to have that first. And we like to think that we know a good idea when we hear one here at Cedar. So if it's a bad idea, it's like we can kind of tell. But Ethan's got good ideas. So it's really fun for everybody to gather around and make whatever you need to make happen. We have a bunch of Swiss Army knives, is what I like to say.
Don't cut me, honey.
We talk a lot about that. The idea is the cheapest part. Ideas are free. And working in a church for so long, worked there for 9 years, and the thing was like every 7 days there's a game day. Every 7 days there, which is kind of a crass way to put it, but it's you have to produce. It's an insane schedule to put filmmaking on. Filmmaking, which is a slow process. to be like, we got to make 5 new films from Monday till Thursday because you only work 4 days that week because you work Sundays. It's and most of the time that resulted in working 7 days a week and like learning a lot about bad work-life boundaries. But what was great about that is you realize you got to come up. You can't be precious. You come up with ideas quickly and you hold those ideas loosely and you just make a decision and follow it to its natural conclusion and don't try to force it too much. Doing that, 52 weeks out of the year for 9 years makes it so that your brain just goes, this is not my one idea. This is one of 10 and it feels the best now. So I'm going to pursue it. Mm-hmm. And if this doesn't work, I come up with another one. I think oftentimes creative people get really locked in or precious with this idea was handed to me and it might not happen again if it doesn't work out. So then you hold it really tightly and oftentimes try to force it. And you go, no, ideas are cheap. And that also makes you not afraid to hear the word no. And that's why to our clients, we often present 3 or 4 ideas because you go, and if you hate all 4 of these, I'll come up with 4 more. Like it's not that hard, but that hopefully makes you sort of flexible and fast.
Yeah.
You got to be fast and hard.
I'm going to come back to that. Why the name Cedar?
Well, what we like to say, should we say what we like to say?
Yes.
We call ourselves Cedar because we make things that last. That's what we're trying to do here. So Ethan and I both kind of have a background in woodworking and DIY stuff.
Really?
And, we talked at the beginning of our company about what do we want to call ourselves.
Yeah.
And at some point in our brainstorming, Cedar came up and we were like, that's great. We like that. Then it became, which maybe this order is out of order, but then it became, okay, why would we call ourselves that?
You want to
which
find
maybe you
words
should have your reason beforehand. But, cedar is a wood that is long lasting. It doesn't rot. It's what you would make a mailbox post or a fence post out of because it's going to be outside. It's going to be in the ground. It's not going to rot as fast. And for us, like in this content, a lot of times film work gets made to kind of live and die in a moment or like at an event or like, especially in church world, you're doing a lot of stuff that like it plays and then it like kind of goes away forever. And
you think so?
Yeah, like, I mean,
I know in the church world,
especially if it's tied to one specific event. So oftentimes people will come to us and they'll go, we need something to promote this thing.
Okay.
And we go, well, hold on. If you think a little more broadly, what that will allow us to do is you will use it and it will promote this thing, but then you can use it for the next 3 years, which is not a great economic or business incentive because we're making things that they don't need things that often, but it keeps us from making content, from just like flashing, like just churning stuff out.
Yeah.
It makes it so that we can put our heart into it because it doesn't feel like this is going to get seen one time and then discarded.
Yeah.
And it can be a bit more impactful for them and their audience as well. Like it allows us to kind of spend a little bit more creative energy on what it is we're making because it's going to, have a longer shelf life. So that's why that's the reason we came up with.
It was like we were sitting, I remember sitting in the car together and just putting the 2 words together. And we were like, it's like Clark Kent or
just kind of
Peter
felt
Parker.
it. Like,
you just go see a creative. Yeah, 2 words. They kind of sit next to each other.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Nicely.
the alliteration of it.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, exactly. It's nice.
But it's sort of fresh. And then it worked out to where now our office building is amongst the trees up here. It's kind of,
it is. Yeah, honey, when I was coming up that hill, I said, where am I going to make it?
Yeah.
And where am I making it to?
You said, how good are my brakes? Yeah.
We're working on a sign.
You'll test your brakes on the way out.
I was so scared.
We are on the side of a mountain here.
I was like, dude, am I going to go backwards? Okay, so this is a podcast about dominion, according to Genesis 1, verse 26, which in part tells us that we have dominion over all of the earth. And from what I can see, it looks like you all are doing just that because I feel this pull from myself to empower. And it's sort of something I've always done my whole life is to empower people to, I never use these words, but like to take dominion and to not walk in fear or to not feel like what you were saying, Ethan, that you won't get it again or like you're going to lose something. And so my question is, would you all say that, actually I lied. I'm going to ask another question. So I spoke to you, Ethan, about how you all sort of built the foundation of it. Like, I feel like you told me something about like a pyramid of the what's most important. And
well, it's not a pyramid. It is the shape of a pyramid.
Triangle.
To be clear, our business does not operate in any pyramids.
Yeah, there are no schemes are happening.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Zero schemes.
But even importantly for it, there's no hierarchy to this. What we wanted is something that is like a guiding principle that is everything is equal. So it's 3 kind of spots on a triangle, but it sits, imagine it sitting, flatly so that there's not any hierarchy to them. Okay. But the idea would be, it started with creative fulfillment. It's like if you make your living doing creative work, it can so easily and so quickly become, there's a lot of money in being niche. There's a lot of money in being like, we make this one thing and we're going to churn it out forever. And there was a real temptation and a lot of advice to do that. And I knew from working in a church for 9 years, it's like, if I make the same thing for my career over and over and over again, while that will lead to financial success, it is going to kill me. Like I'll die on the vine of that because I'm not being responsive or responsible with kind of naturally how I feel like I should be spending my time. As a filmmaker.
What's on the triangle?
So it goes like creative fulfillment, work-life balance. That was also a thing that our past work experience kind of taught us, which is like working 100-hour weeks is not only not okay, it's not necessary. Yeah. There are ways of creating systems and support and working together and accountability with one another to where you can work a regular work week and make a living, and it's fine. Like we're pursuing a creative life does not mean you've got to be not with your family or consumed by this work. Like you can have a work-life balance. And then the other part was financial fulfillment. It's like, can we actually have all of these 2 things work together? Creative fulfillment, work-life balance. Can we hold those 2 things in a way that actually makes it so that we can have a living, that we can have families, that we can afford to live in this ever increasingly expensive world? And so those 3 things, they only work if they're in balance with one another. If you are making something, we might have that financial fulfillment if we're niching down and making one kind of content, but that creative piece dies. And then my work-life balance dies because my creative piece died. And so they have to live in equilibrium with one another. You can't pull one out and still function happily is kind of how we feel. Okay. So that becomes the guiding principle. Having those things in place and trying to pursue all 3 of those things working together all the time is what helps us make decisions, basically, to kind of go, all right, it's this big thing that we want to do, this goal, this film, this, moving into an office building, whatever. Are they going to facilitate that or are they going to pull away from that? Okay. We had to get into this office building because we were in my house for the first 2 years of the company. And it's like, that's not great work-life balance.
No, because you got a wife.
Yeah.
You got a wife?
I got a wife. And if we were talking about having children at the time and, that's not we had 6 cars in the parking lot every single day. And you're like, the neighbors are starting to wonder.
Right. What y'all got going on over there?
Yeah.
Okay. So I like to know the history of people. So when you were little, what were your aspirations? Like, what did you imagine? Because you come from New Orleans, Greyson. So what did you imagine? Which was one of my most favorite places. It still is.
It's so good.
It's so good. The food is so good. It's a nice little vibe.
I miss it. Yep.
Okay. So what were your aspirations growing up there?
Gator hunting.
Really?
Cooking. No,
I was about to say.
No, I wasn't that cool. I had some friends that were that cool, lived on the bayou and like went, gator hunting at night and all that stuff. I've been pretty singular.
I can tell.
Pretty much since I knew what a video camera was. I had my dad's mini DV tape recorder. I was making films. Okay. I think in high school, that was the first time that I really said, do I want this to be my career? Am I going to try to set myself on a path to do this full time? And what I decided to do was come to Stanford University and get a business degree because my dad was an entrepreneur and I had always thought it'd be fun to start a business. Yeah. And I figured, all right, well, if I get a business degree and I make movies on the side, once I graduate, I could just keep making movies. And if I don't want to, then I've still got a business degree. I can go do something else. I'd say a pivotal moment was I made a short film in middle school. It was called Los Piratas. It was a Spanish class film that I did instead of having to write a paper. Oh. And we played.
Could you speak Spanish?
Now?
Then and now, buddy.
I mean, I got Los Piratas down, I guess.
I would question your pronunciation.
To answer your question, I took Spanish classes. Okay. And I'll just leave it there.
Okay.
But anyway, I played it for the class and it was intoxicating. People were laughing at it. People were paying attention to it. Some of my friends became a little bit more popular as a result of them being in this film. Yeah. And I was like, this is incredible that you can involve somebody in something that you just put together with a bunch of your friends and a computer.
Yeah.
that was kind of what hooked me first.
Yeah, crazy feeling.
Mm-hmm. So what did you grow up like with both your parents? Because you said your dad was an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. What about your mom?
Stay at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did your dad do?
He runs a series of like health and fitness centers called Crossgates Family Fitness. As a kid growing up, dream job for your dad to have, because at all times I had access to a pool, to basketball courts, to go work out, racquetball, tennis.
Yeah.
So I remember, I don't remember what year birthday it was, but my birthday party was me and like 15 of my friends just stayed at Crossgates overnight and just did whatever we wanted. So like 3 a.m. we're playing pickup basketball, and then we're going swimming at 4 a.m.
Where was your daddy was there?
I think so. I don't remember. I think he might have
So wait,
just left
I need
us.
to understand. Is this a facility?
Yeah. So, Lifetime Fitness?
Okay.
It's similar to that. It's just like a multi-purpose family fitness center. Okay. So you've got a cafe. Yeah. You've got a shop. There's yoga classes. There's like spin classes. Then you've got your normal cardio and free weights and stuff, like a typical gym.
So y'all there all night?
For that birthday party, yeah.
The birthday party, okay.
My brother and I homeschooled, and our goal, speaking of goals, was, maybe this is where I learned this skill. We'd start our school at like 9, and we'd say, as fast as we can get this school done, we can go play basketball. And that's what we would do. Like basically by 12 every day we were done, and we're going to play basketball. That's
wow. How did that start though? Was it like your parents would be like, okay, if you eat your vegetables, then you get to have a dessert or something?
I have to trick myself into being disciplined. I'm bad about it. So that's the only way that I've figured out how to do it.
Okay. What about you, Ethan? What was the
origin? I don't know. The similar thing of, it's the only thing I can remember wanting to do. There was maybe a time sub 10 years old where I was like, fighter pilot, that would be cool. And then somebody told me
fighter pilot.
Yeah. I was like maybe watching Top Gun or something. And then they were like, it's a lot of math. And I was like, okay, never mind. So maybe I just want to be Tom Cruise, or I want to be whoever was behind the camera in that movie. But it was that. I was just being obsessed with movies and having no idea. And, growing up in Alabama and Mississippi, there was no, you think you want to be an actor because that's what you see. And then you go, somebody says it's producing, because your parents have seen that in the credits of a movie. It took years to figure out what it actually was that I wanted to do. But by the time I was in high school, I was like confident, I was 14 years old, 15 years old, and like, I'm a director. I'm going to be a director.
Knew it all.
And just, thought I knew everything. And have only really pursued that for, 20 years, basically.
Yeah. How old are you?
33.
Oh, so cute.
It's a good number. Over 23 years just wanting to do the one thing, thinking about one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but being obsessed, that's where Greyson and I are very similar, is an obsessive pursuit comes very naturally.
Now, Kevin, you seem real serious, like you were a serious child.
I don't know. I've got a pretty silly past.
I don't believe you, actually.
Being a student minister at a church, you have to have a streak of that. But
silly streak.
Like kind of, I guess, unlike these guys, I don't know that I was always destined to do this specific type of work. I was a pastor for 10 years, and that was the thing that when I was a teenager, certain people kind of identified in me. Like,
had you identified it in yourself, though? Did you believe that it was a call?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I was pretty young. And, people kind of gave me opportunities and helped me see like, oh, hey, you can get up in front of a room and like talk to them, and it's not going to terrify you, and people will like listen to you.
Yeah.
And so I gave like a significant portion of my life just leveraging that skill to try to figure out how can you essentially kind of tell the same story over and over again in a way that is still engaging, and particularly a story that has already been told for
and
thousands
now you talk
of years.
When you say story, you're talking about the Bible.
Yeah, exactly. Like during my time of pastoring, like preaching specifically was kind of my calling card. That was the thing that when I was young, people were like, you're going to be a pastor, you're going to be a preacher, this is like what you're built for. But I have a specific memory of one. So I had like a lot of people identifying that in me. There was one guy who, he didn't say you're going to be a preacher. He didn't say you're going to be a pastor. The way that he said that was, he said, you are a builder. And I spent my time in the church world doing that, like helping churches grow, helping people grow. And I think in a lot of ways, like that has come to fruition in my life, that in this work in Cedar, like that's what I'm doing really, is I'm building and I'm trying to help something grow. And a lot of the skills that I kind of learned and picked up in that world, I'm using and leveraging today, in the same way. But I definitely I thought that that's what I would do forever. But this has been really a fun challenge and like something that has been super engaging. Yeah. And my kind of approach into the film world is really through that lens of story and storytelling and communication. I was obsessive about how do you effectively communicate an idea? What's the best way to break something down, to speak it with your mouth and have somebody else know what you're talking about?
Sounds like preaching.
And, it's like, and if you think about passing information that way, where maybe you don't have visuals or you don't have something tactile to communicate with or whatever, you're just using your words, like it can be a real challenge at times with people to get your message across. Yeah. And so figuring out how to do that, to me, when I approach our projects or our stories and kind of things, like that's how I think about it is, what are you intending to communicate? And then what is being communicated? What's being picked up on the other end? And the fun thing is that it's not always so linear. Sometimes it's like, well, I want to maybe just ask a question and leave people there. And that's great, But to me, that's my kind of like where I get really passionate about the film work that we're making. Yeah. It comes from a place in my heart that's passionate about communicating and kind of figuring out how to tell a good story. When I was like a little kid, that was my favorite thing to do. It's like tell a story. Just something that happened today. Yeah. But finding a way to tell it that made people laugh or made them lean in or made them ask the right question or whatever. Like I love, and I still to this day love doing that. I do it with my kids all the time. Just telling them stories about things that happened.
If you and Kevin have something happen that you're both there, you want Kevin to tell the recap story.
Okay.
It's always so good.
Because I go around the world.
Yeah, he's great at that.
He's got that skill. Can I tell a long story quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
So when we were kids, Kevin's a year older than me. Okay. And he, probably 13, 14, recognized that I was trying to do this thing, making videos all the time and different things. And we were connected because of the church, because of Shades, in the youth ministry. And at a certain point, he came up and was like, Eric, if you want to keep doing this, I can help you. I can facilitate. I can actually give you opportunities within the church. Because he had already kind of started doing that, making highlight videos for the youth ministry or whatever. And so we started making things together in that way. But he was also kind of had this eye on this communication. And again, being one track minded, this was all that I was really thinking about doing. And it was May of 2006, probably. 2005.
That sounds right.
So I was about to turn 16. So this is Kevin's birthday is one day before my birthday, as we've established. And he's a year older. And we were at choir practice.
Not you singing, Ethan.
Oh, yeah.
And we hated it. We hated it. So it's like Wednesday night, and it's Kevin's birthday, his actual birthday, the 18th. And just has such bad attitudes that we're both there.
Wait, you had rehearsal on your birthday?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's a different kind of holy. I was not in church on my birthday.
That's what you call a church kid.
Yeah.
That's what you call it.
But we kind of probably had pretty bad attitudes about it. And there was a little break, and Kevin was like, all right, when this is done, come out to my car. I've got a birthday present for you. And I was like, well, it's your birthday. I should have a birthday present for you. And we get done with choir practice, and we go out to the parking lot, and he opens the trunk of his car, and there's a giant blue box that had like giant box with blue wrapping paper. And inside was this camera that was a brand new, what at the time was like a top of the line. It was mini DV because it was so long ago. But this top of the line camera, I was like, there's no way you afforded this $3,500 thing. And he was like, wow, don't worry about it. And then there was also under the box was like software and all this stuff. It was everything you needed. And in my mind, everything you needed to make a movie at the time. And it just like blew my mind. And what do you want to tell the rest?
Well, there's a backstory there. Yeah. So I was doing a lot of video work at the time as well, like super interested. Just like I was kind of like the only person in my family that was like interested in computers and things like that. And we had like a family friend who was a guy who's kind of like another father figure, uncle, grandfather type of guy in our life. And he was always just kind of interested in what I was interested in and trying to find ways to encourage me in those ways. And he had helped me get a camera, and that camera had broken, and I'd gotten it repaired and tried different things. And like had kind of run to the end of the rope. And on my birthday, he showed up to like my birthday dinner with my family, with, present or whatever we like, did presents and all that stuff. And then after the party, he was like, "Hey, I got one more thing for you." And it was, this box wrapped in blue wrapping paper. I open it up and it's this camera. Blows my mind, and I'm like, "I can't believe you got this camera," whatever. And then he's like, "Hey, I got like one more thing for you." And it was another box wrapped in blue wrapping paper. And it was like the same weight, the same thing, the whole deal. And I was like, clearly this is another camera. What is this for? And I remember him telling me as a 17-year-old, "I want you to know what it's like to kind of like give something generously and encourage someone and give that to somebody." And so he was like, essentially all he said was like, "You'll figure out what to do with it." Which, I mean, he knew exactly what I would do with it, but he wanted me to do that. Right. Yeah. He didn't want to go and give it to Ethan. Like he wanted me to do that. Yeah. And so he gave me like
which meant more, I'm sure.
Yeah. And it gave me this huge gift and this experience to kind of like be able to do that. And it was so fun to be able to be like, "Don't worry about it." Like, this kind of just came in from nowhere.
$3,500 actually, but that's good. That's good.
And yeah, so it was like a fun thing then. And I think that moment kind of just bonded us in a way of like, hey, there's something here, and there's something in this work and in this experience that, at the time, I probably, if you had asked me, I probably wouldn't have thought that it would come back around. But, in 2020, it did. And, we're kind of back to the same kind of thing of we all the time, each of us open up the trunk of our car to put stuff in to get to work, and go make something again. And it was like, we were doing that when we were 16 and here we are again. Yeah.
Oh, experiences like that too, just inform, not only they kind of tell you, they communicate to you in a way that you don't really understand. Hey, there is something here for other people to see that and support that. But then there's also like the lesson learned of how to live generously and what that can do for you. And so what we're trying to do is build something that can do that for other people. That's what we're having a meeting about this morning is some filmmakers come in and it's kind of like, how can we be an aid to leveraging what we have got going on to do the same thing for you that Mr. Jesse did for us in a way. Or I had an experience in college where I was so stressed. It was like my sophomore year of college and I had a laptop that was about to explode because I was putting it through. And I had so many jobs in college. I was constantly working and I had this deadline.
Jobs doing what?
Film work. Okay. So I was working for the school, for the public relations department. And had a series of videos that I was meant to finish, and my computer was just grinding to a halt. And the college was down the street from my aunt and uncle's house, so I was very close to. And I'm over at their house, like, because I could kind of do some focus work, and I'm editing. And my uncle, who sees that I'm frustrated and nervous, and like, I don't want to disappoint the school, and he goes, "Get in the car." I go, "Okay." I don't really have time to take a break. He's like, "Trust me, just get in the car." We drive 40 minutes. I don't know where we're going. He drives to the only Apple store in all of Mississippi. And he walks me in and goes, back in the day when there was like a Genius bar in the back, he would go, "All right, just build this dude whatever he needs, whatever it costs." Wow. And they built me a top of the line computer. And
I didn't know they were building computers.
It was one of those giant desktop computers, the Mac Pros, a tower. It was huge.
Yeah.
And they were taking components out and putting other components in to make it specifically work for video. And we left with it that night, and I went and finished my videos at his house. So there's things like that where you just go, that is like the biggest. Yeah. There's one thing for somebody to look at you and go, "I believe in what you're doing." And that can mean a lot for somebody to say that. It's a totally different thing for somebody to move their life and leverage their life in a way that helps yours.
Yeah.
Says a lot.
Kevin, it seems like for you had a lot of people around you sort of helping to cultivate and sort of mold you into, I guess, the man that you are today. Did you ever feel pressured by that? Or was it just came?
I'd say like both sides of that coin are true. Like there are certainly parts of myself that like in no way can I take credit for. And they're 100% like parts of me that people have kind of pulled me up into and led me towards and, kind of advised me in different ways that, helped me make decisions that I probably may not have made on my own that worked out in my favor, those kind of things. But there is a side of that can start to feel like kind of a self-conscious pressure of like, if somebody else sees this in me and they kind of speak that over your life at a young age, you feel like you somehow owe it to people to become what they think you ought to become.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that a lot when me and my wife decided to kind of take a break from ministry, because that world and that job can be so closely tied to your identity. Yeah. It was a very difficult transition for me personally, just to kind of go from.
I'm sorry to interrupt. You all left to go to Tennessee.
Yeah, I was a associate pastor of a church in Tennessee, and then we came back to Alabama, to the Birmingham area, to help plant a new campus of a church. And that experience, like for me, was kind of all like, it felt like it was leading somewhere. It's like all leading to more. And it's all kind of, you're going to get more people, and you're going to get more influence, you're going to get more platform, you're going to get more and more and more. And it's like going well, and it's successful and all these things. And it's very difficult as you are successful, I think, in any endeavor, to not link that endeavor to your identity. And then when you make a decision to kind of break that and go, okay, we're going to like just go do something else for a while. It really kind of, from my experience, like kind of shrunk my like time horizon down. Like I, in the past, was like a big 5-year, 10-year plan kind of guy.
Ooh, child, no.
And that experience to me just kind of, it shrunk everything down to like, what am I supposed to do today?
Yeah.
And like, who am I supposed to be today?
Right.
And
which can be scary to me sometimes.
Yeah. Like, I think I took a lot of, like, comfort in feeling like I knew where I was headed. When in reality, like, you don't know what's going to happen. You know, you have no idea what's going to happen. You have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah. You have no control over anything. Like your path is not, you're not captain of your own ship.
Right.
You know? But when you're doing something that you feel like you're uniquely good at and you're having success at it, it can be very easy to believe that. Oh, I've got, the tiger by the tail, and like, I'm kind of, everything I do seems to go right. So that can convince you of some things that I think they're pretty dangerous. You know?
Yeah. Especially doing the work that you were doing.
Yeah. And so in some ways, like, me kind of taking a break from that job and that job identity has kind of been me detoxing from that, that high of like, my job is my identity is success, and these things are all going well for me. Yeah. And so that's been a journey, but that's probably another podcast. Yeah. There's a whole thing.
Kevin, you don't know what this podcast is, sir. That is this podcast, okay? Because one thing I do know about, now I grew up in church. My grandmother was like the mother of the church. It was Missionary Baptist.
Yeah.
And so I had to be at Bible study, Sunday school, choir rehearsal, which I loved actually. But one thing, and I don't know if I just don't remember, but no one was ever just speaking to me like, this is what you're going to be, this is what you're going to be. But once I got older and I knew that I wanted to pursue a career in filmmaking, one of my friends' moms said to me that that's a very carnal thing. And I was so happy that I had formed this relationship with God when I was so young, because I always knew, I was like, yeah, it ain't the church, honey. This ain't it for me, because I ain't got the patience sometimes with people like that. And so when she said that, it hurt a little bit, but I was just like, no, God needs people out in the world, actually, because he tells us to take dominion over the earth. That means every industry that we're in, wherever you set your foot, you have dominion over it. And so that is a huge part of why I'm doing this, which I said earlier. But when I left the church, I never left God, because I knew I had that relationship with him. But I find that so many people, when they are hurt by the church or feel like they've let the church down in a way, that they leave God, they throw the baby out with the bathwater, as folks say. Did you ever, before I ask that, would you all say that you have built your business with a faith-based foundation, or did that play any part in it at all?
I think it can't help but play a part, and that's what brought us all together in the first place. And what we learned, I think, most importantly in ministry in many ways is kind of what we were talking about earlier about being relationally leading.
Mm-hmm.
What we learned about in ministry, both good and bad, is no matter what you set out to do, it's so easy to take advantage or keep people from being the priority, keep product the priority.
Mm-hmm.
And what we said at the very beginning was like, all right, if people are the priority, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean for the people that we hire, employ, and contract? Whether that's like paying quickly or communicating in a certain way. Or,
they do pay on time.
Or just like,
how praise the Lord.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
how you talk to people, how you treat people on set, or treat people within the team. It's like, do I know what's going on in your life, or do I just know what's going on in your work? And keeping that, like our clients are our friends, and the experience of working with our clients is like, all right, you might start as a client and it ends with we're having dinner in one another's house, and that's important for us. And those things, valuing people and how people are treated, is exactly what came out of our time in ministry together. It's like, if you see people as image bearers of God, then you are, but so often that doesn't translate, or people very quickly.
That's actually the beginning part of that Genesis 1 verse 26. It tells us how we are created in His image.
But it's tempting to take your eye off that prize. It's like so tempting to just be like, look at people as a means to an end.
Yeah.
But it just, it has devastating consequences. It never goes well.
Right. I'm very proud of you all for that, because you do a great job, by the way.
Thank you.
So, now Greyson, when we had talked, because I had asked you if I could ask whatever question I wanted.
Yeah.
But you were saying that you were kind of like, "Ooh, child, I ain't got time for the saints no more," or like you were questioning or something. What's that journey like for you?
It's interesting the way that our work as filmmakers intermingles with churches and ministries, because so much of Birmingham and who we know and Sanford's Christian University is all intermingled in that, whether or not we're making projects that are explicitly gospel oriented or just kind of thematically gospel oriented. So as a company, it's very intertwined in terms of the kind of work that we do. Yeah. What specifically is your question? Why I'm not going to church regularly? Is that the...
No, hold on, Chuck, because I got notes now.
Yeah, hit me.
So in my notes, you were basically saying that I think you did you grow up non-denomination? But right now it says, I think I wrote that you say you're close to Christianity, but you're kind of questioning. And there's this issue of disassociating the Southern gospel from the spectrum.
Well, I don't know about that quote, but it's a good line. I don't know what I was saying there. I think
okay, something that I remembered was in that conversation was that you said something like you would be in a church with hundreds of people and you can't understand how there could be this one God for all of these people.
Maybe I did say that. I think more broadly my journey as a Christian has been starting off like hyper secure in everything that I knew, and then kind of falling out of that when there were some expectations that I set for myself and for God that weren't met.
Like what, if you don't mind?
Just in terms of what it felt like I have a lot of journals from college basically saying like, hey, this is not working out. I need something to go off of here. Like kind of prayer journals effectively. Yeah. And nothing really changed for me. And so I was like, all right, well, this thing just doesn't work. So then I stepped away entirely, and the more days that I spend alive, the less sure that I am that I know everything, but the more, I don't know what the right word would be. The more, I guess, belief kind of that I develop in what Christianity is as a whole and the people that I know in it. Yeah.
Okay. The only reason, or one of the Yeah, really the only reason I'm asking that question is because I know, especially in our industry, in the film industry, it can get real bleak out there. But then trying to do that and walk a Christian life, and then coming from that background where it was kind of like I didn't have a choice. There was a moment in my life where I did choose, where it was like I felt isolated from people in my family. So it was like, well, you're about the only person I got to talk to here. So, and he would always come through, not like I wanted him to, for sure, but he was always the constant. So even now when I'm going through really hard things, like building this podcast was really hard. And just last week, I think like maybe Sunday and Monday, I wouldn't speak because I knew I had nothing good to say. Everything that I wanted to say was so bad that I said, no, I can't say that. But I had to, I still believe that God was good the way that he said and tells us and shows us all the time that he's good. But I can also understand how when it's like, dude, you told me to do this. So where are you now? So I know grappling with that. I know a lot of people do grapple with that. And a lot of people aren't going to church or reading their Bibles or anything. So that's why I'm asking. So I don't want you to feel like, oh, she's coming for me.
It's a good point. That was a huge piece of like why I wanted to make films when I was in high school was I looked at it as a tool to tell the gospel in a better way than anybody else was doing. And because
it was janky.
Yeah, and it's still sometimes.
Yes, it is.
And when I got into college and I was like, well, maybe that's not my goal anymore, I felt disqualified to do the.
Because you are. I'm sorry. Y'all got people around here. I'm sorry.
I'm worried about your audio recorder.
It's going to be fine, Ethan. The way that this has been going, that's the last thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know. There's something nice about you don't have to be so sure in yourself to still be doing good work. Just surround yourself with, just make a goal to do videos that you're proud of. And it's funny how even if I'm not so sure what's going on, it's like a lot of the work that we do here is sure, and it's doing a very definitive, great thing in the world, and that's cool.
Yeah, I say I do my best and let God do the rest.
Yeah, that's it. Totally.
Yeah. Okay. What about for you, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, I think that. Are you asking about me personally, or
how that just I guess business? How you see the business and if that's important to you that it's.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're going to be effective at what you're making and what you're building and what you're doing in the world, like it is. You have to give yourself to it. And so if you're giving yourself to it, you got to, be honest about who you are and what it is that you're bringing. And for me, like faith and following God is a huge priority and a huge part of like what it is I'm trying to like be in the world. A big part of that for me is like figuring out how to like give your life to something that's bigger than you, to give your life like in worship to a God that you feel like is not only like providing for you, but also like giving and putting yourself in a posture of like receiving what God has given you and is kind of speaking to you day in and day out. And a lot of that happens like for me in terms of just like relationship with the Lord and like a kind of value identity idea.
What does that mean, value identity?
Yeah, because like working in the church, this is a little bit of an excursus for a second, but like working in the church, like talking about that identity thing, it can become a lot about, well, God loves me and values me because of what I do for him.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right? Because I'm waking up every day and I'm trying to figure out how can I help these people know God better? How can I grow this church more? How can I help people? It's like I've given my whole life to him. So like, surely he's pretty impressed with that. Surely he like wants me on his team. Surely he's like, well, I need you to do this work because you're more talented than these other people or whatever. All of those things are like really like terrible propositions for a relationship, right? If you think that the value that you bring to the table is only the things that you do and not just like who you are, that's it. You're really twisting what a relationship is, you know? And so I think for me, like I just got into that mentality after 10 years of working in the church and had to really rediscover, like, what is it that I am doing here? Am I enjoying God or am I enjoying the work or the accolades I get for the work or the attention I get for the work? And, I think scripture is rife with those kind of examples of God asking people that question. Do you love me or do you love my promises? Do you love me or do you love what I can give you? And so that's kind of changed my posture towards my relationship with the Lord and put me more in a place where I'm just trying to receive who God says that I am and the love that he has shown me and the provision that he's given me that I don't deserve, the blessings that I don't deserve just in my family and life and all these things that I'm like, God has shown me his love, and that should put me in a place where I can have, a self-confidence and a value that is more than just the things I do or the things I make or the things that I can accomplish. That is easier for me to say than to live. Yeah. But that's the kind of posture that I try to bring to my work. And the journey that I've been on probably in the last 4 or 5 years is more of a place of that, of kind of like resting in who you are.
Oh, that's so hard.
More than trying to become something that you want to be,
Yeah.
But it is very hard. It's very hard.
But we gotta do it.
Yeah.
So speaking of values, so you and Ethan, y'all married, and Ethan got a new baby.
Not to each other.
Not to each other. You all have wives.
He also has 2 new babies.
2?
Yeah.
He went from 2 to 4.
Yeah.
Overnight.
Oh, buddy.
And they were born like 2 weeks after Mallory was born. We were all in baby
I'm
town.
up to 4 kids, and I think we're done.
No, okay. You wife, kids?
Nope.
Dating?
In uncle mode right now. And thoroughly enjoying it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
How has that, having that, because I do feel like men, when you all have something to be accountable to, like a family, that it changes you a little bit in a great way. How has it in your business life?
That's fascinating. So, obviously I'm right in the
question.
middle of this. She's just turned 4 months old. I think I expected and this could change at any minute, Alesha.
Okay.
I think I expected a total upheaval of everything, and even worried maybe about this thing that I've wanted to do for 23 years and have been moving towards. Is that going to all of a sudden not matter to me at all? And will I be okay with that? And I almost expected more of an upheaval of priority. And it's almost like I'm just now trying to figure out how to put words to it, but I think it's almost like waking up to, at first I felt late in my journey. I always felt like I'm 33 and I still hadn't made a feature film or whatever. Wow. I felt late in my journey, and it's in the last 4 months I've woken up to feeling at the beginning of my journey. So it's like, okay, now it starts is some way, but none of the priorities changed in that way. It's like, I want to make a movie so much worse now. I want to create a life and for her to grow up in a world where the reason I'm maybe wanting those things has changed. But I want them more badly now than I did before, which I maybe was a little surprised by. But yeah, it kind of feels like waking up to like, okay, now my life starts.
Yeah. And is your wife really supportive of the work that you do?
Like a little too much.
Yeah, the most.
Like last night, I thought so we did, I don't know when this will air. We had a deadline that then I was like, I'm not going to be able to make. And so I was up here till like 10 o'clock last night, which is the first time I've worked late since she was born. And Rachel was like, I'm bringing over some food and we're bringing this baby. And we just kind of this became the living room. And she ate and cried, and I worked on a video, till 10 o'clock last night. Didn't
Rachel reject you in middle school or something?
Why you got to dig that up, Alesha? Why you got to go there? No, so
that's a serious word.
Rejected is in every form possible, because she's not here to defend herself.
Okay.
In 7th grade, I was like, I met her at church and was like, that's it. That is what I like.
In 7th grade.
In 7th grade, it was like setting. That's what I find attractive. That's the personality that I like. That is the girl. And then I tried to get her to date me for 7 years. And then she said no over and over again. She dated me for a week when we were in 10th grade. Yeah. And then broke up with me on AIM, AOL Instant Messenger. crazy little cutie 39 broke up with email number 17 over text. And then right before we left for college, we're going to different colleges. A month before we were moving away to different states, she was like, actually, I kind of like you too. And we started dating. So we did long distance for 4 years and then got married.
Okay, see?
It's all
a beautiful, happy story.
Pays off.
See, you're decisive and precise.
And I know what I want.
Yeah.
And I'll go to great lengths to get it. Great lengths.
So, Kevin, how has your family, because you got 4 kids, wife, y'all have been in Tennessee ministering for 10 years, came back, planted another church. You lived a lot of life in 34 years.
Yep. Somebody told me once that your 30s are your fighting years. And they're like, I think you fought enough. That's what they said to me. But I feel like with my family, my kids, like I think that being a dad is the greatest thing ever. And like I just really love my family and I really love my kids. And it has kind of redefined like what it means for me to like be off or away or play. Like earlier in my life, like I would say, hey, I'm going to like work for this time or earn for this time so that I can go do X, Y, or Z, and like had plans and a lot of things I enjoy and a lot of things I want to do. And like at this point in my life, like all I want to do is like be with my kids and be with my family. And so in a lot of ways, like what I'm doing and building for me is reinterpreted through like, how does it provide freedom for them in their life? And how does it provide just for their life? And how does it provide freedom for me to be with them? And when I'm not working on that, I want to be like playing with them. And those are the things that like I want to spend my time doing, is kind of creating a life for them and then living life with them. You know? And it's kind of redefined that for me. Like where in the past it might have been like, hey, I want to create something for me. Like I don't know. It does something to you. You don't think about yourself as much anymore.
Right.
And I really only think about it in terms of like how I can kind of like provide for them and provide what I want to provide for them,
Speaking of providing, how did you go from his guest bedroom to all of this? Not his is Ethan, because you won't see me pointing because it's audio.
Very carefully.
Very carefully. So when we started in a bedroom, in a guest bedroom of my house. And then we graduated to the basement of my house because I was like, it's getting really hot in this tiny bedroom with all these computer fans and stuff. It's like my AC could not keep up. And then when Greyson was coming on board, he was moving from Atlanta to join the company. And we're like, we cannot fit another human being in this room. So Kevin and I remodeled my basement in about 2 weeks. I cut my finger off in that time. It got a little chaotic.
Did you really?
I cut the end of it off. We were laying floors and it furiously, because literally Greyson was days away and we were smacking these like snap together floors.
Greyson, look at them preparing the way for you.
We were just trying to make it, just trying to impress him.
And I skipped a mallet off the concrete and filleted the end of my finger off. And Kevin was like,
did you cry?
I did not cry. I was like, is this ever going to stop bleeding? And we went to my sister-in-law's house, who's a nurse practitioner. She glued it back on. And then Greyson came, and then we flew to New York to go shoot a T-Mobile commercial the next week.
Wow.
And I had this like...
I always remember whenever I was driving over to see the basement office for the first time, the power went out. And y'all were so annoyed because you had...
The house got struck by lightning 10 minutes
and the
before
house
he
got struck by lightning.
Like hardcore. And it blew everything.
It was kind of a foreboding.
And so we worked so hard on this office.
About it.
We had done the floors, we had done the ceiling, we had ripped everything out, painted everything. And we had got it all set up and we had his stuff waiting for him. And then 10 minutes before he rolled up, it was in pitch darkness. He couldn't see anything. We walked in with a flashlight.
Were you like, ooh, I don't know about this?
To be honest, I wasn't thinking about it.
You weren't.
No,
this anticipation was.
I was like, all right, we got to do this work. We got to make good films. That's where my brain was. It wasn't on the new floors.
Okay.
I've since
it had blood all over.
Somebody's got to be thinking about the new floors. Yeah.
Screw your floors.
I've since learned to appreciate that stuff significantly more, being in an actual building and having to deal with the handful of construction projects that I was only tangentially involved in.
That's a good word, tangentially.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I keep it that way with construction projects. I don't know.
I
leave that
just
to
on
them.
the periphery.
Okay.
You help make the desks and stuff.
Enabler.
But like financially though, how were you able to do this? Did you have projects so you had a good reserve, or?
It was, for the longest time, we were looking at renting a space, and it really came down to that work-life balance thing. So all the spaces we were looking at, because we thought that was the only option, were downtown, and we live kind of outside downtown, and getting on the interstate every day, we were kind of starting to, it was helpful and kind of going, is this how we want to spend our life, is sitting in traffic for an hour and a half of each day and sitting on the interstate, and is this the place that we want to bring our kids, and that kind of feeling. It's like, what do we really want? Well, we like how a house feels. What if we thought a little bit differently? And Kevin found this building, and it felt really out of reach at the time. And we made a really low ball offer. And
they didn't take it.
They didn't take it. They took it as somebody else's offer. But as you attested to the steepness of the driveway, it was a construction company, and they had it under contract, but they needed to park their equipment here. So as soon as they came to try to park their equipment up here, they couldn't get it up the hill.
Look at God.
And after 6 months or something, their contract fell through, and they came back. I think they were so sick of trying to sell this thing at that point, they accepted our low offer.
Isn't that crazy?
That's what you gotta do.
Isn't that crazy?
You just gotta put it out there.
Yeah. I mean,
truly. I love really that.
Yeah. And so we had resolved to not be in here. And that was another thing. Greyson went out of town for a week, and Kevin and I were like, let's make the basement even better. If we have to be here, let's really be here. We worked on it for a week, and we did a bunch of construction projects. When Greyson got back, we were so excited to show him. And then we were like, also, they came back and they accepted our offer. So none of this matters. We're leaving.
Yeah.
But you notice how, like we were talking earlier about, you'll have this idea of what you are praying for. You're like, as the old people say, tarrying for. And then the moment you let it go, there it is.
There it is.
Why I gotta be like that? Why can't it just be like, give it to me now when I
stop
ask?
straining? Yeah,
that's true.
Just let it be.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
We try to, and the lesson there, I think, you just like hold things with a loose grip.
Yeah.
Whether that's creatively or like things you're trying to make happen, is like just hold them loosely, because you never really know.
So it's the three of you as partners. Do you all have employees?
So there's 3 more filmmakers that are here at the time, and all of them, dangerously skilled in a myriad of ways, and really awesome folks, and slowly and steadily growing.
And you all have been able to be, now I don't know nothing about this financial world, you do. You all have been able to be profitable?
Yeah, by some miracle.
Yeah.
The first year we started, Kevin and I were coming to the end of our ropes in our ministry careers at the end of 2019. And so we kind of said, hey, let's do what we said we were going to do when we were 13 years old. Let's actually follow through on that at 30 years old, and let's start working. Let's start a company, which is a pretty foolish notion. But it started going well. We convinced a nonprofit to let us make a short film for them, like a scripted thing. We're going to write a script and cast it and shoot it the way we would do. It's like, this is what we want to do with the company. They've let us do it. We had a couple good case studies like that. And then it got to March of 2020. And COVID happened, and all of those aspirations sort of didn't go away. They just went, okay, well, now the priority is different. What do we got to do to just survive?
Yeah.
And so the first year of the business, really a year and a half, was just like, we'll do anything that you're willing to pay us for.
Did you have to do things that you didn't like?
Oh, so much. Yeah. Websites, logos, live recordings, like, stuff that we haven't done since, but it was... It didn't feel miserable or anything. It was just like, we'll take anything, because this thing
just trying to survive
that we've given birth to is so vulnerable right now that we'll do anything to preserve its future.
Much like how you do for your children.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. It's like you're so afraid of it falling apart, kind of in that you're in the same way with the newborn. It's like you're checking their breathing all the time. And, that's what we were doing. We're checking the company's breathing constantly and just doing whatever it took to get another month. And then really, so that was a tough year, because I was still working full time in the church. And so I'd do 9 to 5 at the church, or 8 to 5. Get to my house. Kevin was waiting on me, usually with some fast food. We would start working from 5:30 to about midnight. And then we would just do that for 7 days a week. All our shoots were on weekends. And then 2021, we sort of relaunched and kind of said, all right, we're both full time, because he was full time for the 2020. And that's what led us to like start to actually do the thing and then bring Greyson on.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Well, do you have anything else to add, anybody?
I don't know. I didn't get a pre-interview with you. I don't know.
I thought about that actually. But we had technically
We've done our pre-interview over years. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. So it was fine.
I'm just jealous that they got a phone call.
I did feel a little bad, I'll be honest, but it's you. And then I have another friend, and I didn't pre-interview her either. And then I was like, oh, was that to my detriment? But it's been fine. I figured it would be fine.
Yeah, totally.
It's great. You have anything?
Well, I'm curious about what you see this podcast becoming. I've got a little bit of an idea of what you want, not out of this one specifically, but as a whole for you. Mm-hmm. Like where do you see this going? What's the big idea?
Oh, the big idea, I don't know.
Okay.
But actually yesterday, I had an interview yesterday with my hairstylist, who is also a friend. And I think once we finished, she was just saying how it's, because I feel like what it's doing is ministry, but a gift that I've always had is to be able to relate to anybody in any position in their lives. Whether it's when I was interning, I was surrounded by people who were atheists, but they were so respectful of me, and I respected them. They understood where I stood, and I understood where they stood, and it was fine. Or in school, I was with popular kids, the not so popular kids, the sporty kids, the stupid kids, whatever. I was able to just get along with everybody. Uh-huh. And so I feel like, I'm going to stop saying I feel like, but in ministry, I guess I'm sort of with the castaways, which is also kind of what filmmakers are in the world. We're kind of the outcasts of the world in regular society. Because if you work in film, you got to have a little crazy to keep doing it over and over and over. Yeah. And so like, oh my, like your story, and then yesterday the story, and then another story. So watch all the stories, listen to all the stories. It's just people who, if you look at them, because they're not on a pulpit, you don't know that they are still ministering in whatever industry that they're in. And so it's really, I hope that it encourages God's people to do it where you are, where your feet are. That's where your purpose is. I feel like our purpose is what we're doing regardless of the job that we're doing. Although I used to think that it was something else, but I'm like, it's been the same thing. I was having these kind of conversations when I was working at Sunglass Hut, when I was working at a gym, when I worked on set, it's the same thing. And I had these conversations with Catholic people, Muslim people, people who call themselves witches. Now I say, don't you try nothing, because I will plead the blood of Jesus over you and send you right on to hell. So don't try it. But yeah, so that's basically it. And just, I guess, tapping the people who don't feel tapped. I don't know, but we're going to see, because I'm out of the way. Because Greyson, let me tell you something. I had a whole different idea. This would have been a whole production. And God said no. And I was very mad for a while.
Holding it loosely.
Yeah. That seems to be the theme.
Yeah. And these last 2 days, because these were the first 2 interviews where I have held it loosely, it's been great. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I can breathe. This is wonderful. No pressure or anything. Yeah. So that's the
very
hope.
Cool.
Yeah. But there's this little segment I have called Testify.
Okay.
So there's 2 questions. The first one is, what are you believing God for right now? And it can be in any aspect of your life or somebody else's life.
I think because we're so just like locked into this newborn thing and learning so much about ourselves and about what we really want out of the sort of makeup of life, and church and different things. I think we're kind of, and when I say we, I mean Rachel and I, trusting that, I think it's tempting after bad experiences in things like ministry to, what you were talking about earlier, throw the baby out with the bathwater, or whatever that looks like, deconstruction to the point of nihilism, is I feel like I see. I
said, like I know what that word means. I don't know.
Just like nothing matters. Like, okay. You see, if this doesn't matter, nothing matters. And the forfeiture of the soul is, I see it all around us. And it's so tempting because once the system can let you down so hard that then you go, well, none of it. Because the things that you say I can't trust, because the things that you do are a different way. but we're kind of living in this place of like, what does the new normal look like in terms of pursuit and what I actually need from the, the systems, the machinations of church and community and those sorts of things. Yeah. But I feel a real sense of sort of peace as we are pursuing those things, that what is true and what is good and what we want that to look like for our daughter, like looking at it from a perspective of raising a family is the same as it always has been. It's, the makeup of it might look quite different. And I think we both feel a bit of like, there is time. There is time to figure this out. Like we had this whole thing. We were like getting ready. We're going to go back to church. She's had her shots and whatever. And like, we're going to go back to church this past Sunday, and she didn't go to sleep till 4 a.m. Yeah. And we're like, wow, I felt so defeated because like, I cannot get up in 3 hours and do the nursery for the first time and different things. And we were just like, you know what? Then there's time. We'll figure all of these things out.
Yeah. Okay. Who wants to go next?
We have been similarly in the throes of now raising 4 kids, and 2 of them twins. It's like we have 4 children and 2 of them can't hold their head up straight. It's just madness at our house. And probably over the last couple of weeks, we kind of reached a end of our rope in terms of like, I don't know how we can do all of this. And in the midst of that, we have just kind of started to talk about that in a way with some of our church family and our people around us, and seeing God provide through his people for us in ways that, like, honestly, I'm a little uncomfortable with. Like, I had some friends come and cut my grass on Saturday, and like that, I don't like that. I don't like to receive that because I would rather be able to do everything. But that was like a real provision for us. Because when I try to cut the grass, like, I'm outside and Janie's inside with 4 kids, and they all want to be outside with me on a lawnmower, and it's just chaos. Yeah. But somebody reminded me recently, St. Augustine was, kind of known for saying that we experience Christ through his body, in very literal senses, but also through the body of Christ and the people that God has assembled to be his presence in the world, and receiving that and like giving into that in a way is not only something that God will provide for you, but he's also like, that's a blessing for those people that are giving and are a part of that. And like, you will then have opportunities to give to others. And so when you talk about like, what are we trusting God with and for, it's like, I think just a posture to like receive from him, but also that like he will provide and he'll take care of us. And this is like a really hard season, and it's a deep, dark wood of providing for little people that can't do anything for themselves. But it's like full of light and blessing at the same time. And just kind of seeing that from God and his people is kind of where we've been.
At the same time, they did cut the grass incorrectly, didn't they?
Like they actually did a fantastic job.
Oh, good. Really?
Yeah, they really did.
To your standards?
They really did.
Kev's got high grass.
I do have a fungus in my yard at the moment. There's a spot. I got a bad spot. There's a fungus.
Don't pick at that scab.
There's a whole lot there. That would be yet another third podcast that we can go down.
Yeah.
I got it all.
What's going on with Kevin's yard?
No. The common theme in all of these interviews, well, I act like I've done a million. This is the 4th one so far, is identity and a push, people feeling a push from God to get out of their comfort zones. And I know that is for me because, like you said, with the perfectionist thing, and I was talking to my friend yesterday, that is so difficult. But then also receiving, it's like, what is that? I don't know what that is.
I think it's a simple pride that says, I want to be able to do it all.
Yeah. You want to be so self-sufficient.
I think life has a way of convincing you that you can't do that.
Right.
And you're never going to be able to just like kind of pick everything up and put it on your own back. We're just not capable of it.
Right.
But there's a beautiful truth in there that like with other people, we can, that if you're willing to kind of like take hold of that, it's like a really beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I think I had recognized that I had fooled myself similarly into thinking that there was perhaps more control over life than you start a company, you're self-employed, you kind of create these bubbles that are the illusion of control. And something that I've never been an anxious person in my life, never struggled with anxiety. Something having a baby did was rip all those things away and make you and lay bare like how truly out of control you are. And there's nothing I can do. They scare you to death also at the hospital and are just like, here's a packet of 30 pages of things that if happen, your baby will die. Oh. And that's like how you leave the hospital.
Wow.
And you're just like inundated with, anything horrible could happen at any moment, led to this. I was like, I couldn't breathe at times and would have to go on these walks. And Rich would be like, I'd be like, what is going on? She'd be like, that's anxiety. It's called anxiety. Welcome to the team. We've been here for a while. And
I don't want to be on that team.
But it slowly subsided but it was the upheaval of realizing, all the things that you thought you kind of had a grip on were an illusion anyway. And, and that's where it comes back to like just the faith component of nothing. It is impossible for human nature, for the human soul to not serve some sort of master, to not be, and even if you tell yourself that you're not, the thing, whether it's your value at work or, if you think, if intelligence is the thing that you serve, you always feel dumb. If, money is the thing that you serve, you'll never have enough. It's like there will be a master of your life, labeled or unlabeled, no matter what you do. And so just kind of recognizing that like you do have agency over where you put that, over what you let be Lord over.
Bishop, you better preach, honey. You better preach, Bishop. Ethan.
That's this guy.
Were you done?
No, yeah.
Okay. What about for you, Greyson?
I'm not avoiding the question. I do actually have to go.
Okay. See, I told you.
I will say though, I completely, I respect these guys a lot. And I think both of those things they just said are very quality things that I will also be chewing on. No, we need to stick with the holding things metaphor. I don't want to introduce chewing.
Hold them, take them with you to your meeting.
Yes, that's what I'll do. I'll hold them loosely on my way.
Second question, how has God been good to you most recently?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like we started our family, growing our family, and when you embark on that journey, there is a part of you that's like, at what point do you know that your family is like complete? And how do you know, hey, I think we're good here or whatever? And like, I grew up in a family with two brothers who had three boys, and like you, as a kid, you don't ever know that was like a part of the conversation. You're like, this is just my family. When you're the parents, you're like, how do I know this is my family? And when Janie and I started kind of like talking about like, okay, I think we're like ready for a third kid. When we got pregnant, it was like, okay, this is like number 3. We'd always kind of talked about, do we want 3 or do we want 4? And when we found out it was twins, it was like, on one hand, like terrifying. Yeah. But on another hand, it was like, I felt like this like double blessing in a way. There's this passage that has like meant a lot to us through that journey, from Psalm 165, where the psalmist is writing about kind of bounty and harvest and things like that. And one of the things he says about the Lord is that they say his wagon tracks are overflowing. And the idea is like this wagon that's been loaded up with the produce of the harvest, and it's just bouncing down the lane, and there's just so much that it's just falling off, and it's just like you can't kind of contain what God has to bless people with. And we have felt that through our children. And for 2 kids to show up at once is like the craziest thing in the world, but it is like this measure of God's goodness and sweetness to our family, and like to see the way our other kids have reacted to that, and they love them so much. And like, it's just the coolest. It's the coolest thing. And it has created a new dependence in us on God and God's people. And like I was saying, like, how has God shown his goodness most recently? Through exactly what I was talking about, of like God's people just being like, we want to like help you because we love you. Yeah. Not because of like what you could do for us or what you bring to the table. But like, we want to help you because we love you.
Yeah.
And that sounds elementary.
No,
but
it doesn't.
It has been like revolutionary to our hearts and our souls like recently. So,
I love that.
Yeah.
What about you, Bishop?
Well, yeah, I don't want every answer to just be like these two dads being like their kids.
It should just be honest.
Well, I want to be sensitive too to like, I mean, the answer is like our daughter basically, but the reason for that is for how long that was not the answer. There was, I mean, it was a 4-year journey that was very difficult to be able to get to that point from the time that we started trying to have kids to the point that we're at now, with loss and all sorts of like grief and terrible things along the way. And so it's insane to, you know, wake up in the morning and like go wake her up and be like, you exist, you're here.
Yeah.
You know, and we waited for a long, long time to where when you ask that question, that's like kind of all I can think about is the grin that you get when you turn on the lights and she hears your voice.
Yeah.
First thing in the morning. But, you know, the provision was there in the process as well. And I don't want to lose sight of the fact that even those 4 years were very difficult.
Yeah.
What Kevin's talking about, there were a lot of wonderful people were in our life at the time. Sometimes as even a result of that journey. And a lot of like, we got closer to our community over the course of that journey as a direct result of it. You know, the people in your life sort of have a way of sort of sifting themselves out the older that you get, especially get into your 30s. What I learned was like the people who can kind of metaphorically dance to your music, who are great friends, or the kind of friends that you need, stay, and the others kind of sift. And the people that we needed at the time while we were struggling so much, I look at them now with such gratitude, you know, that we had them and still have them. And even though we're on the other side in some ways, it's like, it's the same answer as what Kevin's saying. It's just like people, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Oh man, I do need some more podcasts.
That's what I'm saying.
Produce it, producer.
We got endless ideas.
Speaking, I love the color of your shoes.
Thank
I love
you.
those. All right. So now.
For the audio only listener, they are North Carolina blue.
They're beautiful New Balance. The original shape. Because, you know, they got that new shape right now.
That's right.
I don't like
classic.
that new shape. Yeah, it's classic.
Yeah.
I don't like the new shape. But those are beautiful. All right. So to end this, I do a good old Missionary Baptist Church benediction that we did when I was growing up.
I love it.
So you can bow your heads and close your eyes. May the Lord watch between me and thee while we are absent one from another. Amen.
Amen.
I really appreciate you for listening. And I'd like to ask a favor of you. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends and family, rate, and leave a thoughtful review. This helps others to more easily find the podcast and get their cups filled too. You can email us at youaintgottabebroke@gmail.com or follow along on Instagram at the handle youaintgottabebroke. Until we meet again, have a beautiful week.